Hi, welcome to Crafting a Country Life. I have something a little bit different to share with you today. In the recent past, I've been doing a lot of paper crafting, and more recently, I've been trying to incorporate more textiles into my paper crafting as well, and trying to find a mix of those two things that pleases me. So I think, like with any artistic journey, you have ideas and things that you want to try, and sometimes finding the path to those particular ideas, it's a process, right? So a while back, I had created this art journal, and I actually did post a video about this. But I think with this particular project, I tried to really push incorporating more textiles into this project, more so than I'd ever done in the past. And I'm really feeling like this is more along the path lines that I want to go and experiment a little bit more with. This one has a vintage theme, and if you want to see the full video on this, you can check my video, the video section on my channel. But this is an art journal, and I've intentionally left a lot of the pages somewhat blank. I mean, there's some decorative pages in here, but they're also providing somewhat of a canvas that I can work on top of. So from this, I wanted to back up and share my artistic thought process, and this is one that I pretty much have been using most of my life and over the years. I have a number of sketchbooks, and this is just a small sampling of them. And over the years, as time allowed, when my kids were growing up, and even prior to that, when I was in high school and college, and even middle school, and before that, I started using sketchbooks. My mom and dad gave me art lessons when I was in 4th and 5th grade, 6th grade, and then on into middle school and high school and so on. And it was something that I really always enjoyed, and I learned from an early age that keeping a sketchbook is one of the best ways that you can record your ideas, and then over time you can see the progression of those ideas and in what direction you've taken your work, and the different pathways that you've gone down. One of the defining characteristics of an artistic person is that they brainstorm ideas on a regular basis. They do a ton of research. They go back to brainstorming. They research some more. And then they start to experiment and practice with their particular chosen media to try to bring those ideas to fruition. And sometimes we'll go down a path and use a particular medium, and then decide, no, that's not giving me the results that I want. I'm going to switch and try up a different media. And as a result of all that, over the course of a lifetime, many of us have had an opportunity to dabble with a lot of different materials. I have a strong desire to work in fiber, textiles. I do hand weaving, hand spinning. I do my own hand dyeing. I've got several looms down in my loom room in the lower level of our home. This studio up here that I'm working from was an old bedroom. We converted it over into my paper crafting and sewing studio, but it's just overflowing. And this is just from a lifetime of collecting and working in different sorts of media and just doing a lot of experimenting. But anyway, I digress. This sketchbook, I'm going to share this with you in a couple of minutes, but this is just one of my basic sketchbooks. I keep this one in a travel tote that I can take around the house or outdoors, or if we take our camper and go somewhere, I grab this tote and I put it in the camper, and this goes with me. It's because it's a little bit of a smaller size. So there's that particular current sketchbook, and I do have all of the sketchbooks that I've ever made stored away, and sometimes I'll just flip through them to see what my progression as an artist has been over the years. It's just kind of a fun thing to do. Anyway, You don't have to spend a lot of money for this kind of a thing either. This is an old book that I picked up at a tag sale for 50 cents. It has a beautiful cloth-bound cover, and it's a book probably from the late 60s, early 1970s on needlepoint. And I said, you know, this would make a perfect sketchbook. So what I'm doing is going through this book with this beautiful, you know, hardbound cover. I put some gesso over the original title, and I'll probably continue to, you know, change up the cover as I go along. But I just started this in the not too distant past. And just covering up the text pages with gesso, and then going back in and brushing colors over it. And then I'll come in and collage on top of this, you know, as time allows. I'm still currently working full-time. I teach elementary art, and so I don't have a lot of time right now to devote to doing my art, and really haven't for about 30 years. Between raising a family, we have 3 children. You know, we live in an antique house, and so over the years we have been busy restoring that. We're always busy taking care of the grounds. You know, we have 2 acres of lawn and trees and gardens and flower bushes and vegetable garden and all that. So, you know, my time has not been totally my own over the years, but at some point in the near future, I do plan on retiring. I'm going to be able to devote a lot more time to playing around with this. This is another couple of pages from that same book. These are just pages that I'm prepping so that I can go ahead and collage in on top of them, or paint, or add paint markers. And then, of course, this page here, covered with gesso first, and then I collaged on some bits of printed cardstock papers. Over that, I did some painting, and then on top of that, I drew with a Sharpie marker, and then I added pastels on top of that. So there's a lot of layering going on here, and this is really all just playing with the media, seeing what happens when I, you know, layer particular materials together. You know, what kind of effects am I going to get, and just giving myself permission to play. So there's a lot more to do in this book, but, you know, remember that you can always pick up, you know, inexpensive books at thrift shops or garage sales and use them as a base for your own sketchbook. Okay, this one is just a mixed media book that I picked up at a craft store at one point. And again, just playing around. These are watercolors and shapes. And you can limit yourself, you know, every day or whenever you have a chance to sit down and select your parameters. Say to yourself, you know, today I'm just going to do a 10-minute spread and use only circles and only watercolor. Or today I'm going to do a 5-minute spread and I'm only going to use my gel sticks, for example. What can I do with all of the art materials that I currently own? Well, sit down and play with them. Get yourself a page in your sketchbook, try out each material. These are all water-soluble materials, so I sat down and I played with them with different amounts of varying pressure and amounts of water to see what effects I would get. Some of them I rubbed with a brush, others I left, you know, just plain with no water, and just to see, you know, what I would get. And then I kept notes. So these can be really helpful little tools to just keep tucked into your sketchbook for when the need arises. I like to keep a color wheel nearby just to kind of help me choose, you know, color schemes when I'm working on anything. A couple of just some quick loose watercolors just to kind of get used to some different sets of watercolors that I had in my stash. So I played around a little bit with that. So there's plenty more pages in here that will need to be filled up. But this sketchbook I purchased because the paper is for mixed media, and I knew I could put lots of paint on here without it bleeding through. Okay, another sketchbook here, and this one I keep for my art quilting. And this is something I would really like to get into in a much deeper way. But for the past 12 years, you know, outside of getting our own 3 children, you know, through college and all of their different activities when they were in high school, and then caring for my aging mother. We had 12 years of looking after her. She lived with us and passed away just a year ago in January. She was almost 97, and she passed away of dementia and old age. And so there hasn't been a lot of time to devote to it. But prior to all of that, when the kids were much younger, I did start playing around more with art quilting. And so these pages in this notebook are more about experimenting with the art materials on textiles to see what kinds of effects I would get with different products and different things that I had in my stash. Here's a glitter. These are, I think they're the Lumiere paints, and they're on prepared for dyeing fabric. And they're just stunning and so glistening, and they have a lot of depth. This is a really nice, whoops, getting framed there. This is a really nice product, Lumiere fabric paints. Up here, just some watercolor on prepared for, it's called PFD fabric, and you can purchase it by the bolt through Joann's, or you can go to Dharma Trading online and order it through them. And so I took some watercolor paints and just played around with splashing it onto wet fabric, and after it dried, I thought it looked like flowers, so I went in with a Sharpie pen and just did some pointillism to define the petals a little bit. And then, you know, I'm just keeping notes as I go along. This particular watercolor that I used was a Dynaflow product. Okay, and another page. Graphitint water-soluble colored pencils up on the top here. And these were used on a slightly dampened cotton fabric. Here's another Jacquard Dynaflow painting project here. So these are all some really, you know, if you're interested in creating effects on your own fabric, these are some fun products that you can try. Again, here's some different effects that you can get. This one says here, a quinacridone purple and alizarin crimson artist's acrylic paints that were printed onto my fabric. So lots of fun ideas. You can see here is a small art quilted project that I had done quite a while back. And this, oh gosh, I don't know if I kept notes on this one. But after I did the coloring, I went back in with stitching, machine stitching, and went over it to give it some relief. So there's a little bit of a you know, surface activity going on with this particular art quilt. Lots of fun. I'd love to do more of that as well. Someday, hopefully soon. This is fabric marbling, and these are lots of fun. They're a bit crisp from being folded into the sketchbook, but look at the rich colors in this. Just so stunning. So much fun to play with. These would be beautiful done up into an art quilt that had stitching around the marble shapes as well. That would really be fun. Maybe with some metallic threads on that one. Here's another example, some different colors. And then this one here. I'll bring this up to the camera a little bit, you can see. But they're highly detailed, and so soft. I don't know what product this is. I think I'd have to look that up. I'm sure I still have it in one of my art drawers over there where I keep my supplies. But yeah, lots of fun. Let's see what else. Okay, this is, I started this art quilt. And, you know, they're not finished yet. I need to bind them and put a backing and so on there. But machine quilting, and then I used fabrics for this. Well, not all of them, but many of the fabrics in here I had decorated myself with printing techniques. The bottom of the camper here, and then this upper kind of green section as well. And then the other fabrics I pulled from my stash and did some machine quilting around them to secure everything in place. And this I did, I think, back in 2014. So I've had this for a while sitting in my sketchbook. That's about when we bought our camper, and I said, oh, I just have to make a little art quilt. We've had so much fun over the years with that camper, and this was just a fun little project. Let's see what else is in here that I can share with you. Here are a few more art quilted painted hearts. I've been doing a few of these more recently and adding beading. In fact, let me share this one with you. Just finished this up the other day. So, you know, I can admit that most of my projects are extremely long-term. You know, I'll work on them and then I tuck them away. And, you know, over the past 12 or so years, I've been very busy with Mom. But starting to get things out again and starting to get those creative juices flowing and back into my routine with my own art. This is just so much fun. These are glass beads that I hand stitched on top of some printed and painted fabric that I created myself. So there's that, and a few other things that I played around with here. This is just acrylic paints on this is a canvas duck. Lightweight duck cloth. So just painted those kind of fall colors and stripes. Not sure what I'm going to use that one for yet. I'll have to think about that. And again, these are just some sprayed and fabrics that were wet. This one was wet, sprayed with a spray bottle, and then I went in with watercolors on top of it and just allowed it to dry, and it gave this very soft pastel kind of an effect. And it's always a surprise. You know, after it dries, it oftentimes looks quite different. This is acrylic paints on prepared for dyeing cotton. So I sketched my design out first with a pencil, and then went back in with the paints and just painted over it. And I actually taped this fabric as I was working on it, so it wouldn't move around with my paintbrush. I taped it to a board with some masking tape. So there's that. And again, you know, I may add some beading to this, or, you know, put some high loft batting in between it and the backing and do some stitching. I don't know, I have to think about that. So that's another project there. Let's see if I list any other pages towards the front here that I could share. Oh, there's just so many. More experimentation. Yeah, this is, I believe this is Sharpie and Alcohol. Just some playing around with that. And my friend Christy might remember some of this. Hi, Chris, if you happen to be tuning in. One summer, when we got together, we played around a little bit with these techniques out at her summer camp. I'm not sure if these are the same ones that we worked on or if they're different. But in any event, this is a rusty nail technique. So you put the rusty nails in an ammonia solution, let them sit and get good and rusty, and then you put your fabric in there. Of course, you know, you put the fabric in and put the nails on top, and then let it sit for a couple days, and it will rust your fabric. So that is another fun technique to try. These are Crayola water-soluble portfolio pastels, and I use these with my students all the time. But look at the beautiful effects you can get. So I went in and I colored this first, and then used water over it with a brush to create this soft, you know, watercolor effect. And then when it dried, I went back in. When it was almost dry, I went back in again and added a little bit more of the Crayola watercolor pastels. These are a really fun product to use. You can do a lot with them. And I think that was also heat set. Yeah, with an iron. I went back in and heat set that with an iron to hold the colors fast. Okay. And a few more painted examples here. You can see different kinds of acrylic paints. And then some gel printing, jelly plate printing here with this one. Let's see if there's anything else. Yeah, this is another gelatin plate print here. So this was just pulled from the printing plate. You know, you ink up and paint your printing plate, add your brush marks right into the printing plate. When you're finished adding everything onto the plate that you want to appear on your fabric, you lay the fabric on top, and then you peel it from the plate and you're left with the beautiful print. Oh, this is so much fun. I can't wait to get back into some of this. Here's some more Sharpie marker effects right here. And I'm glad I wrote this down. It's the Sharpie marker, 91% alcohol drops. On the flower and leaves, I overdrew again after it dried to add linear detail. It says here, it would be fun to try misting the drawing instead with alcohol to see what would happen. But this, I think, is a really pretty soft effect too. These would be gorgeous on silk. I'm thinking silk scarves or other silk items that could actually even be worn or displayed in a frame. Okay. Well, yeah, lots of other things that I've been playing around with here. Different kinds of fabric markers and the effects that you can get. So I'll get this in frame here. I just took a piece of fabric and all of the different markers that I had at the time and wrote down the size and type of marker that it was. And, you know, you can see the type of text that resulted from those experiments here. So lots of fun. This one here is a glue resist. Right, let me turn my notebook. This is using Elmer's school glue. You know, that blue glue that you can get in a bottle, and you squirt it onto your